Hello and welcome to the show. Today I'm also going to be running commentary on something I saw on LinkedIn, and I think it was to commemorate Customer Service Week. Now, unfortunately, I've closed the post, so I can't remember if it's something that was current because sometimes LinkedIn will serve you up stuff that happened maybe a week, 2 weeks ago. Oh, by the way, that's also another reason why it's good to be up on LinkedIn because stuff that you put up on LinkedIn, content that you put up on LinkedIn, seems to have a very long life cycle, if I can call it that. Because I've noticed that I share some stuff and I think, okay, I shared this a long time ago, so it's over and done. But then I still receive engagement from it maybe like 3 weeks later. Like those of you who play around on Facebook or Instagram, I think Instagram, the life cycle is pretty much like a few hours. So like if you put something 8 o'clock in the morning, by afternoon, it's gone. It's not going to be up again. Nobody's going to see or interact with the stuff that you do. So, so the post was commemorating Customer Service Week, and it was written by a communications professional. And of course, I like paying attention to these sorts of things because, for those of us in the sales and business development space, we are concerned about these sorts of things. Customer service, customer success, customer satisfaction. They are important because if we don't get that part of the equation locked down, then people don't come back to us to buy again. There's no repeat business, there's no referrals. They don't bring their friends, their family members, and associates, and we don't get to maximize the lifetime customer value in the situation. In other words, we're not going to get the maximum, the full potential amount of income that we could have gotten out of this. Because obviously, if somebody buys from you once and never comes back, it's not the same thing as if the person comes and buys from you several times a year, for XYZ number of years. That's for those of you who have businesses where those sorts of things can happen. So I'll just make a bunch of comments on the post. We'll just riff around it because the post was around. It was one of these rambling posts, the same sort of thing I do over here on the podcast where, I get a topic and I just rant. So basically, the lady was just talking about how you deal with customers that, troublesome customers, basically. The title of the post was a question, whether you feel fear for not meeting your clients' expectations. And she was talking about dealing with troublesome customers, how they have unrealistic expectations, but how she thinks it's a good thing because these kinds of customers or these kinds of clients force you to rise to the occasion, and they help you to improve your service delivery. And I must applaud her that it's a real positive way to look at it, although I'm not going to endorse her point of view 100%. So let me just make a bunch of comments on that. But before I do that, the nerd list, the geek list. So on the playlist, I'm still on that Scarface, and Scarface is truly the Ewu Gambia, as in he's the GOAT. As for Shizzle, because the collaborations that the guy has done, I didn't realize that he has worked with so many artists, and it's amazing how he never quite crossed over into commercial renown, commercial mainstream. So there's some collaborations that he did with Jay-Z, for instance, on I can't remember, was it Volume 2 or something? I can't remember, one of those old albums, collaborations with Snoop. Scarface also did collaborations with Nas. He even has a collaboration with Anthony Hamilton. That's if you listen to that kind of music, that New Orleans kind of soul R&B music. Not too many people like Anthony Hamilton, but I like him. He's my guy. I think he's a correct guy. Voice is different, but good. And Scarface has also done collaborations with DJ Khaled, Jada Kiss. It's been a while since I heard Jada Kiss. I wonder if he has retired. Scarface collaborations with John Legend, with Akon, with Young One, other people in the Rough Rider crew, as in Scarface. No, the guy try. The guy really, really try. So young bloods listening to this, please check out Scarface. It's worth a listen to. But like I said, if your popsy doesn't like hip hop, or your wife doesn't like hip hop, or your husband doesn't like hip hop, some of the themes are conscious and some of the themes are gangster. So, I mean, some people might just listen to it and say, look, why are you listening to all this angry music? You're ruining your motivation or something like that. So that's on Spotify. Then for Netflix, I'm watching this Scandinavian, I'll be Swedish or whatever, movie called Trouble. It's a really interesting, should I say, comedy or action comedy. How a guy just got mixed up in all kinds of things. I mean, basically, it was a drug heist gone wrong, and corrupt police people were involved. And because of mistaken identity, this guy went to jail. He's trying to clear his identity so he can get back to his family. Meanwhile, his wife has gone and married somebody else who, is more paid up, a pilot, although this happened before the Yawa started to happen. So there's marriage issues with his daughter, and then this mistaken identity and stuff like that. And it's an interesting film because I haven't seen this kind of comedy before. So it's impressive, it's good. So there are benefits to watching movies that come from, expanding your movie palette. So not every time Western movies or the high production Nollywood movies that we see on Netflix. So once in a while, try out stuff. So I haven't been disappointed by Scandinavian movies. I haven't been disappointed by the Korean movies. The Indians definitely are on point. I mean, the CGI in Indian action and science fiction movies are just, as in, like, take a bow. That good. So, that's it. That's what's on my playlists. So now back to this whole thing of do you sometimes fear not meeting your customers, your clients' expectations? So yeah, like I said, it was a LinkedIn post written by a communications professional, and it's supposed to commemorate Customer Service Week. So a lady spoke about challenging clients, and there's a thing where she said the challenging clients are not the high-paying ones, and that is something I can definitely relate to, especially back in my wedding photography days, because I noticed that the people who, so I'm not sure what the fees are like now, but back then when I was still in the field, all those 150k clients, those 150k people are mad, like they're really hard to deal with. Those are the people like, they don't hear sorry, and the expectations are, I don't know, like off the planet. Like, it was one of my second shooters who got a client, a 150k client, and then the babe said she was not going to pay because in one particular photo, she found a pimple on her husband's head. That's in the reception photos, not even on the portrait. That's why the babe says she won't pay the balance. So, I mean, that's how difficult these people can be. And I remember the first time that I had to apologize to a client, it was a high-paying client, and I had to apologize over something that was clearly my fault. And she said, "Oh, that's okay." And I was stunned because that was the first time I actually heard that kind of thing. Like a bride would look at you and say, "Oh, that's okay." And I just noticed that those 150k clients, like, they don't used to hear sorry. There's no such thing as sorry in their book. Those are the ones that shout fire and brimstone. I will call police, blah blah blah. And all that drama, all the nightmares. So, she was able to find a silver lining by saying they force you to up your customer fulfillment game. And I guess, like her, I'll say there's a silver lining there. But for me, the best thing I found about dealing with challenging clients was I used them to learn how to set expectations and to communicate expectations. Because I realized, even before I had started taking sales education much more seriously, I realized that a lot of the quarrel at the end of the day was because we were coming into things with too many assumptions. So they're paying 150k. 150k for them is a big deal, but they're coming with a whole host of expectations, and I'm coming with a whole host of expectations, and neither of us is communicating clearly, and those are the kind of things that cause quarrel at the end of the day. So I used all that practice, and so if you're currently at that stage in your business where you have all these people that are paying you peanuts, but they want you to send them to the moon, this is the time to organize your sales process so that you're setting expectations really, really well, properly from the beginning and clearly. Because when you're locked in those situations where people have never ending complaints or lofty expectations, usually it's just because of a failure of needs analysis and then setting expectations. So, you, the professional, you haven't done a good job of figuring out who this client is, what their problems are, the visions are, the implications of not meeting the goals, their urgency, timelines, and then being able to communicate the limits of your product or your service. So, like back to the wedding photography thing, I noticed that those 150K brides, those are the ones that have much more, those couples are much more aspirational. Yeah, let me just put it that way, aspirational. So the baby's paying you 150K, and to be honest, those 150K weddings are not, those are the ones that they have those small venues in like Area 8 or, yeah, like Area 8, Area 3, all those small venues, Like there was one time my wife was laughing at me because I took one of those 150K weddings. In fact, like I was shocked. Like I landed at the wedding venue, just to check it out and then do some detail shots. And then outside, the woman was drying. What's this thing called? Like smoked fish. I was weak. I said, no, wow. Like what kind of Kwanji hall is this? In the middle of nowhere, and then people are just drying fish outside. I said, okay, no problem. I just told myself that, well, I'll do my best, but I'm definitely not putting this wedding up on Instagram. I said, there's no way I'm putting these girls' pictures up on Instagram. Let people not come and associate me with this kind of wedding. But anyway, let me stop talking like that before you guys will say that I'm one of those people who believe that if you don't have money, you're not entitled to good things. That's not what I'm saying. But anyway, let me move on. Where was I? So those kinds of things now, you find that the babes are kind of aspirational. So they want the photos to turn out, they want the photos of the hall, for instance, to turn out more glamorous than it actually is. They want photos of the wedding dress to turn out more luxuriant than it actually is. She wants her makeup to turn out more on fleek than it actually is. If she has Christian mother arms, she also wants you to do that. I think retouchers call it liquidate. Yeah, you do liquidation and then you're able to give somebody waist, you're able to expand bum, you're able to reduce hand. So they want all that magic done, so that things are much more, what's the word, like sophisticated than they actually are, and all these sorts of things. So me now knowing that that's how these kind of things turn out, I really should have made it a part of my sales process of having those conversations ahead of time. That's where the whole who are you and what the vision are you looking towards. I should have been having those conversations. Like, oh, congratulations, blah blah blah. We finished the money thing. We agree on the date and everything. Whether they paid the deposit yet or not, we definitely have that conversation. So so at the end of the day, your perfect wedding photos, how do you expect them to look? And then just keep quiet and then hear what the babe says. By the time she starts talking and talking and talking, you as a photographer, you will get the sense that, I'm in trouble, or okay, no problem, I'm ready for this bride, like we can make it happen. By the time they start talking about stuff, the perfect wedding day photography, how it's supposed to flow, how things are supposed to look, the portrait ideas that they're supposed to try out and things like that. By the time you have that conversation, I've taken those kind of weddings that, back then, those 150K weddings, just because I was broke. But to be honest, I'm not sure if it's worth the hassle. But at least ask these questions so you know what you're getting yourself into. So that if it's going to be a quarrel, you know from the get that I'm taking this job because I need this money. But in 2 weeks' time, me and this babe, we're going to quarrel. That one is for sure. At least you'll be ready for it. So, do the needs analysis. Ask those questions. Simple things like, okay, do you have a, what's it called? I was about to say motherboard, but motherboard is for computers. I think they used to call it idea boards back then. I don't know. what the trends are now. But back then, I think we used to call it idea boards. So be like, okay, so do you have any idea boards, on Pinterest or on Instagram? The babe will now show you that, okay, this is the kind of picture I like. I like this kind of picture, blah, blah, blah. This and this and that and that. It just gives you a sense. So like for someone like me, who is not good with the airbrushing and the everything, because my own photos are photojournalistic, keep it candid. So that kind of thing, she shows me a photo of Toke Makinwa, for instance, and I know that, okay, oh man, I'm in trouble. Like, this babe is going to be hot to deal with. So if you do a good job at the needs analysis and trying to understand what these people's vision is, where they're heading to, you can now have that honest conversation like, babe, thank you very much. I'd really love to work for you guys and help take care of you guys on your weddings. But to be honest, some of the things that we've been discussing, it goes beyond, my expertise. So I'll transfer the money back to you. I can recommend you to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. If they insist it's going to be you, then this is the point where you now start discussing the limitations of your product or service as clearly as possible. Now, okay, yeah, I understand, this talking market photo, everything or whatnot. But for me, I'm a candid guy, so I don't know how to do airbrushing. So, you have a wonderful and a lovely complexion, but if you want me to touch you up 1 shade or 2 shade in all the photos, it really is not something I can do. Or, like I tried to warn Bright, like, okay, if this is the quality of retouching that you're expecting, then you guys will have to pay more, because I will have to pay a retoucher to go over photos individually to make sure that we bring you up a shade, all these sorts of things. So have all these conversations from the get-go. It will let you know whether you're supposed to run, or it will let you know how to amend the invoice, amend the price, amend the whatever. So that's the chief benefit of dealing with these kinds of clients, the ones who have never-ending complaints and lofty expectations. Just get very good at setting expectations. You can't set the expectations until you figure out who they are, what they're aiming for, and this whole question of the implication of goals not being met. It's good to stylishly ask about these kinds of things, so that Anyway, let me just leave it. Let me not give you guys too much Nollywood about all the adventures that I had in my former life. So, these are the sorts of conversations that you need to have so you can set expectations from the get-go. So apart from setting expectations clearly from the beginning, I think the best way of dealing with these people that have unrealistic expectations is very simple. Come up with a clear sense of your ICP. ICP is your ideal customer profile. Be very clear about who your ICP is, your ideal customer, your target market. If the person doesn't match your target market, just leave it right now to avoid stories that touch. Because, verily, verily, I say unto thee, at least when it comes to wedding photography anyway, and back in those days, with those days' prices, there is some money that you collect. Like, even if, let's say, you collect 350k, but then you guys quarrel, fight. At the end of that day, that 350k will now taste bitter in your mouth. And then on the other hand, there's some 150 that you collect, but the 150 was smooth, and then that 150 will taste very sweet in your mouth. So it's weird, but sometimes, the money doesn't seem to be worth the hassle. So stick to your ICP. Be clear. If you don't think this is my ideal customer, just run. So for me, rather than having all these conversations about bring an extra retoucher, we're going to bring you up 1 shade, this is what we're going to do to make sure that we cater to this quirk of yours or that quirk of yours. In fact, speaking of quirks, there was one bride that I shot. In fact, this will be the last story I'll tell on this one. The babe was a fine babe, as a correct babe, a very correct babe. But the thing is, she had a mole on her cheek. And it's a mole that has been there since childhood. But anyway, this babe was fine, like beauty queen fine. But she has the mole. And of course, everybody called it a beauty spot. But the thing is, the babe didn't like this mole. So, she either had to be photographed from the opposite side, where the mole would not show, and then in every single photo where the mole showed, it had to be photoshopped. away. And I'm thinking, like, you were born with this thing. Everybody knows it is there. Your husband loves you regardless of the fact that this thing is there. I shoot high volume. I'm going to submit a huge number of photos, 200, 300, maybe. And you want me to chase one mole in every single photo and get rid of it in every single photo, or shoot you from the opposite angle. And of course, that's not realistic, because sometimes you're going with the flow, you're going with the moment, they're on the dance floor, they're having that magical moment, and you are here, but you're at the wrong side. If you want to run over to the right side so you don't get the mole, the moment will be lost, so you just fire. Anyway, so how did I get on that? Oh yes, I was talking about ideal customer profile. So the reason why I remembered her was because after that wedding, I came up with a very simple rule. And my rule was this: I was not going to do yellow babes anymore. If I just saw a yellow babe, I would look for any excuse to just weave this wedding, no matter how much money that they had. And so, for me, my ICP did not include babes who were yellow. But then I met another photographer, and we started talking, started sharing stories. He actually second shot for me at one of these birthday parties that was in the club. And so, it turned out we had similar experiences. And then he gave me his own scope, and I now started adopting his own scope. So I tweaked my own ICP a little bit. He said, "Oh, yellow babes, not a problem." What he said was, if the babe is yellow, look at the knuckles first. If the babe is yellow but the knuckle is black, then this is going to be a problem. Those are the girls that will be particular about, take me up one shade or take me up two shades. And when he said that, I was like, oh, okay, that made sense. So it was after I had that conversation with the guy that I was now comfortable shooting yellow babes. Please, I'm talking as a photographer, so when I say shooting yellow babes, I don't mean like gun, shoot. I mean camera, shoot. Don't take me out of context. So then I got comfortable shooting yellow babes again. I'd have the conversation with the yellow babe, but I'll check knuckles and I'll check elbow stylishly. If elbow is black, knuckles are black, and I know that, weave this babe. Forget this thing. There will be quarrel. So I have a clear sense of your ICP. Even if it means something as simple as, if they're yellow babes, they must have yellow elbows and yellow knuckles. And stay clear. Be that clear about your ICP. And, still recovering from the throat and cold and all of that. So, be clear about your ICP and then stick to it. And then another solution that I found while talking with other photographers was to double or triple your price, at least make it worth your while. So normally, if you charge 300k and looks like this babe will be a problem, just tell her, look babe, this will be 600k. You might be surprised that she will say, okay. Now you know that you're putting up with a whole bunch of trouble, but at least you're going to deal with double the profit margin. But actually, in most situations, what would happen is, if you double your price, they will carry their own two left legs and leave you alone. So either way, you win. If they say yes, there will be quarrel, but you have a hefty profit margin. If they say no and leave, well, at least they're not your problem anymore. So these are just some rambling ideas about how to deal with customers who have unrealistic expectations. We can keep going on and on about all these experiences, and I think that's just it. So if you take the lady's approach, the lady who wrote the post, then be happy when you deal with these clients because they force you to up your game. And then if you take my own approach, it's not necessarily a good thing dealing with all these angst. So we need to find ways of getting around it. So number one, we need to learn how to set expectations clearly from the beginning. So needs analysis is really, really important. Who are these people? What goal are they working towards? What problems are they facing? What timelines do they have? When you figure this thing out and you give your proposal or your presentation or your price quote, you now talk about the limits of your product or your service. Okay, if I understand correctly, this is what you guys are trying to achieve. My product and my service will help you do X, Y, Z, and ABC. However, my product or my service is not going to work in this situation or that situation. Is this going to be a problem? And then you keep quiet and then you hear what they have to say. If they say, of course it will be a problem now. How can I pay you XYZ amount and you say you won't give me this, you won't give me that? At that stage, there's no point of arguing and saying that, look, madam, this is a more realistic expectation, or God, this is blah, blah. There's no need to argue. You just say, oh, okay, it looks like I don't have the skill set to give you guys what you need then. So, would you like me to make a recommendation to you guys to try somebody else? So just weave it, if that's not the answer. And then, after you build a little bit more experience and you get a sense of who your ideal customer is, only do business with people who seem to be your ideal customer. Avoid the rest. Then, there's that thing that I learned on the field as a young photographer. It looks like these people are going to be trouble. Double the price or triple the price. If they have the money and they drop it, you now go home, you tell your wife that, look, babe, I've collected money. This work is going to be troublesome. But at least the good thing is by the time we finish this wedding, we'll have some correct money from that. So the money that we collect from this, we can now use it and pay deposit on school fees. And then that thing was supposed to buy, this one was supposed to do, we can now settle this, we can now settle it. And then, you just say like that to your wife and, you guys are cool. And then you go ahead for the whole drama. If the money is too big and they leave you, fine, no problem. It's not your concern. You can use that time to go and look for somebody else to be a client of yours. So thanks for your time and attention on today's episode. You can connect with me on WhatsApp. The phone number is 080-6466-2140. Country code +234. Then also connect with me on WhatsApp. My name is Tavishima Ayede, the host of the show. You can confirm the spelling of my name from the link where you're listening to this episode. So highlight, copy, paste in LinkedIn, and my profile will come up. So thanks for your time and attention. I'll catch you guys at the next episode.